on Philly Sports Radio and said that it would be silly to not have Jalen Hurts as a top 10 player, but the reasoning why may not be what you think.
If we were going to take Jalen with all 32 starting quarterbacks and just put him on a field and just had him throw, which is the basic premise of the position, he wouldn't be in your top 16. I don't think he would be in a lot of people's top 16. But all he's done is win. All he's done is play huge and big moments. And so, my take on him is, I got asked this yesterday. I think it's silly to not have him as a top 10 player at the position.
All right. So, Dan Orlovsky comes out with this declaration that the sole defining characteristic of this player's career is victory. That's his entire case for why this individual deserves a spot among the top 10 quarterbacks in the league. And he's explicitly stating that this isn't even primarily about his arm talent or his physical passing skills. Orlovsky is pivoting entirely to the final score. So, this is the question I'm left with: what does that assertion actually signify to you? What kind of interpretation are we supposed to glean from that? Does that imply we are to judge a quarterback solely by the final tally of wins and losses? And if that's the case, how on earth do we account for the influence of the team around him? We perpetually find ourselves grappling with that exact dilemma, trying to quantify the contribution of the supporting cast versus the individual. You never quite know the precise ratio to assign. Now, I'm actually working on another piece of content that I'll be releasing this coming Sunday, which focuses on none other than Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles. And, to be honest, I haven't even watched the specific clip from Orlovsky that sparked this whole debate. However, I saw the headline, the summary, the bottom line of what he was proposing. And man, did it trigger me. It was a visceral reaction. I was right in the middle of preparing a meal, standing in my kitchen with pots on the stove, and I caught a glimpse of it while I was just idly scrolling on my phone. The moment I saw it, I saw red. I couldn't even focus on the food. My mind immediately started formulating my own counter-argument, my own stance on the matter. I was pacing around the kitchen, mentally working through the entire breakdown, building the case in my head. And I thought to myself, you should just stop everything and go record this while the fire is hot. But I couldn't. I had water boiling, ingredients everywhere. So I had to make a conscious choice to bottle up that energy, to hold on to that righteous indignation, to keep that passion simmering in my chest. I had to store it away, preserve it for later, so I wouldn't lose the edge. So, definitely keep an eye out for that one, because this specific kind of football take, it's one of those arguments that just drives me absolutely up the wall. It's the kind of lazy, reductive reasoning that gets under my skin like nothing else. But at the same time, a take like Orlovsky's is precisely what I find so incredibly captivating. It's fascinating because of the logical pretzels people twist themselves into to justify their rankings. I intentionally bypassed watching a segment on First Things First earlier that day. Again, I didn't watch the entire segment, but the thumbnail and the title were enough to get the gist. It was about this surprising revelation that Patrick Mahomes might not be considered a top 3 quarterback in some arbitrary list of the top 100 players in the league. And I just I had a strong suspicion that it was going to be nothing but a bunch of promotional hype and controversial clickbait. And it's been sweltering hot outside, and I just thought to myself, I don't have the mental bandwidth or the physical energy for that manufactured outrage right now. So I decided to skip it entirely. But still, even just seeing that headline forced me to consider what my own position on that matter would be. It's become almost impossible for me to see any snippet of sports commentary, whether it's a full video, a simple thumbnail, a provocative title, or just a tweet, and not immediately start building a response in my head. It's a reflex now, an automatic cognitive process. I can't just passively consume sports content anymore. I'm always analyzing, deconstructing, and preparing a rebuttal. It was actually a little frightening when I first noticed this happening. When I first started creating my own content, I realized my entire relationship with sports has been fundamentally and permanently altered. I genuinely wondered, will I ever be able to just sit back and enjoy a game or a debate as a fan ever again, without my mind constantly racing and generating content ideas? The answer, I've come to learn, is a definitive no. My brain is always working, always analyzing. And honestly, that's a great thing. I love it. It's the fuel for what I do. But here's the unavoidable reality of the situation: if you want to staunchly defend Patrick Mahomes and keep I'm entrenched in that top 3 conversation, then you are logically compelled to also place Jalen Hurts within the top 10. It's a matter of consistency. The exact same set of criteria you would have to employ to justify keeping Mahomes in the upper echelon is the exact same set of criteria you must apply to Jalen Hurts. There's no way around it. Conversely, if you are one of those people who wants to keep Mahomes out of the top 3, then you have to work especially hard, with even greater conviction, to keep Jalen Hurts in the top 10. Because if you argue that Mahomes' recent lack of a Super Bowl victory or a deep playoff run, in the last couple of seasons, is a demerit against him, then you have to look at Jalen Hurts. Hurts just won a Super Bowl, he led his team to the playoffs, and he had what many people are calling a massive, transformative season. The point is, the argument has to hold water across the board. Now, I almost brought up another critical point here, but I realized that this specific argument is actually going to be a central pillar of the other video I'm planning to make. I need to make a mental note of that, because it's a perfect point to drive home in that upcoming piece. So, I've filed that away for later. But this all circles back to the fundamental question: how much do you actually value a quarterback's ability to simply operate an offense, to execute the game plan, to make the right reads and adjustments at the line of scrimmage? And how do you weigh that against what Colin Cowherd always talks about as pure horsepower, that spectacular, jaw-dropping, highlight reel athleticism and arm talent that manifests in those in-your-face moments of brilliance? My entire prevailing argument about Jalen Hurts, especially over the last several years, centers on this very point. This is particularly important when people insist that literally any quarterback could succeed with the Eagles roster, or when they make the baseless claim that Jalen Hurts is somehow a liability holding the team back. I just shared this exact opinion earlier today in response to a Texans video, I think. The logic is so flawed. You can make those claims all you want, but you have to ask yourself, what other magical, generational quarterback were the Eagles realistically going to acquire during this time frame? They weren't holding the first or second overall pick in the draft. People always throw out lazy hypotheticals: oh, they could have Josh Allen, or just get Patrick Mahomes. It's as if they think those players are available on a shelf at the grocery store. They have absolutely zero access to acquiring Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes. That avenue does not exist for them. It's a fantasy. And then there's this whole other category of quarterbacks that people point to as alternatives. You hear names like Baker Mayfield or Dak Prescott. The argument is, put them on the Eagles, and they'd win easily. But here's the thing, we have seen those quarterbacks in fantastic situations, excellent rosters, at various points in their careers, especially Dak Prescott. And in those situations, they did not win. They did not elevate their teams. They did not rise to the occasion in critical moments. Furthermore, they even had coaching issues, often giving up on their coordinators or failing to adapt. Meanwhile, is anyone out there seriously arguing that Jalen Hurts has benefited from incredible, stable coaching throughout his tenure with the Eagles? Year after year, the narrative has been about the coaching staff holding the team back. No one can honestly say Hurts has had a consistent, top-tier offensive system around him. Nobody. So, it's just one of those things that makes you wonder. So, with all that in mind, how do you want to construct your rankings? Let's use Dak Prescott as the perfect example to illustrate this hypocrisy. In their hearts, many people will believe that Dak is fundamentally a superior quarterback to Hurts. They'll argue he's a better operator of an offense, a better processor of defensive looks, he throws a more aesthetically pleasing ball, he's just a more natural passer who can make all the difficult throws, and so on. Fine. But the uncomfortable truth is that Dak has had incredible teams surrounding him for years. He's had amazing rosters, elite receivers, and a solid offensive line. He was even coached by a Super Bowl-winning head coach who helped develop Aaron Rodgers. I have news for you, Aaron Rodgers need to be developed and coached up, just like every other quarterback in the league. Just as I always argue that Patrick Mahomes needed Andy Reid to refine his raw talent, so too did Aaron Rodgers need his coach. Do I give that coach as much credit as I give Andy Reid? No, absolutely not. But you can't give him zero credit either. He's something. He's certainly not a non-factor. So, again, why are we so convinced that Dak Prescott is a guaranteed winner? If you think Dak Prescott is a better quarterback in a vacuum, in a theoretical, isolated environment, fine. Let's just say we agree with that statement for the sake of argument, which I am not actually saying I do. But let's just say we agree. The fact remains, he hasn't won consistently, even when surrounded by great talent and circumstances. So, how then do we evaluate Jalen Hurts in those same high-pressure moments? Because Jalen Hurts has also been in great circumstances, and in those scenarios, he has won. He has delivered. And when the circumstances around him weren't perfect, he still managed to lead his team to the playoffs. Sometimes Dak made the playoffs, sometimes he didn't. It's an undeniable fact. So, how do we reconcile this? I find myself asking the same question every 6 months or so, and the answer never gets any clearer. How do we actually evaluate what makes a quarterback great? What is the concrete definition of a top 10 quarterback? Is it your ability to single-handedly carry a mediocre roster to wins? Is it your ability to manage and win with a great team? Is it simply your ability to throw a beautiful, tight spiral 30 yards down the field with perfect touch? Is it having the ideal distribution and accuracy on throws across the middle of the field? I heard Orlovsky say something about the primary role of a quarterback being to throw the football. I fundamentally disagree with that premise. I believe the primary role is to run the offense. It's a much broader job description. It's not just about throwing. You have to run the ball, you have to execute handoffs, you have to call audibles at the line of scrimmage. Sometimes you have to kill plays entirely. You have to read complex defensive coverages pre-snap and post-snap. You have to manage run-pass options, RPOs. It's a holistic job. It's not just about being a pitcher. If it were only about throwing, then all the best pure passers in college would automatically become the best pure passers in the NFL, and that historical record shows that is clearly not the case. I often hear people rave, "Gosh, he has such a cannon for an arm. He's got a howitzer." And they'll be talking about a quarterback who hasn't had any significant success in the league. My response is always, okay, well, if his arm is that amazing, why aren't they having more success? Why was his first 3 years in the league so underwhelming? Why did he get benched for a less physically gifted player? So, you see, it's not just the arm. Look at Tua Tagovailoa. Statistically, he is one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the entire NFL. That's not a subjective opinion, it's a basic fact backed by metrics. He is consistently near the top of the league in completion percentage and ball placement. And yet, are you putting Tua on your top 5 list of quarterbacks right now? I don't think you are. I certainly don't. So, again, how do we even have this conversation? If the determining factor is purely wins and losses, and that's essentially what Lombardi is saying when he claims all he does is win, then Jalen Hurts has to be given immense credit for that. You can't ignore the ledger. But the problem is that many people don't want to give him that credit. They want to deflect and say it's all about the team around him. But the retort is that those other quarterbacks, the ones who supposedly could win with that team, simply haven't done it in similar situations. Or you have the counter-argument that these other quarterbacks have won with lesser, more depleted teams, but they haven't been able to win at the absolute highest level, the Super Bowl. So, it just creates an endless loop. And let me be clear, I am not a quarterback wins guy. I do not evaluate Jalen Hurts based on a he just wins metric. That's not the foundation of my analysis. I will, of course, emphasize winning a Super Bowl, because it matters, but when I do that, what is embedded in that statement is the quality of his play in those games. When I say he won a Super Bowl, I'm also saying he played spectacularly well to achieve it. I am categorically not someone who judges quarterbacks solely by the scoreboard. But if I find myself in a random, heated argument with someone in the comments section over Dak Prescott, I will throw out the fact that Dak has won 2 playoff games, whereas Jalen Hurts has been to 2 Super Bowls. It's a line I use because it's the easiest dunk imaginable. It's a simple, devastating fact. Yes, I fully admit, in theory, those are team accomplishments. I don't dispute that point at all. I say the same thing about Mahomes and Brady, team success is not solely on the quarterback. The difference, however, is that Jalen Hurts played absolutely spectacular football in those Super Bowl appearances. That's the crucial distinction. That's why it's one of the points I always try to emphasize. If Jalen Hurts had won the Super Bowl in 2024 and just played an average game, a performance that was just okay, nothing crazy, nothing spectacular, just a decent, run-of-the-mill game, it would be much harder for me to drive that point home. It would be a real struggle to champion him as a Super Bowl winner in that context. The team win narrative would stick. Like, Sam Darnold did not play spectacularly in his hypothetical Super Bowl run. He didn't need to, but he also didn't. But when he did play spectacularly, it was in the NFC Championship game. This is why these conversations are almost impossible to fully articulate in a YouTube comment section or even in a 15-minute video. It's not just about the goalposts moving, though they certainly do. The fundamental issue is that nothing is ever truly fixed or universally agreed upon. There is no solidified, concrete metric that everyone can point to and say, that is the definitive measure of a quarterback. That's why, for me, I tend to simplify things into just 3 broad categories: elite, great, and good. That's the primary prism through which I view quarterbacks. Are you good? Are you great? Are you elite? But the truth is, even those categories are fluid and subjective. A great quarterback can have an elite season, playing at a level above their normal standard. Conversely, an elite quarterback can occasionally have just a good season, beset by injuries or a poor supporting cast. There are just so many variables in play, so much context needed. It's a nuanced, complex equation. And that is precisely why I understand why people cling so desperately to wins and losses. It's easy. It's reductive, but it's simple. It's really easy to say, Joe Burrow isn't that good because he missed the playoffs. That's a simple, convenient statement. It's really easy to say, Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL because he has 3 Super Bowl rings. It's a quick and decisive argument. It's like, okay, I guess that settles it. But then, when it comes to Jalen Hurts, who wins, who gets to Super Bowls, who has won a Super Bowl, suddenly, the goalposts are rippy. Out of the ground. Suddenly, those same people want to introduce all the nuance they conveniently ignored for other quarterbacks. They want to unpack the conversation and analyze the supporting cast, the coaching, the system. So, even the people who claim they want to simplify the argument immediately revert to complexity when Jalen Hurts is the subject. And honestly, he's the only quarterback they consistently do this to. There's always some kind of cooking the books, some kind of mental gymnastics, some kind of shifting of the criteria whenever we discuss Hurts, a type of analysis you don't see with Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, or Mahomes. You see people completely break their own model of evaluating the NFL when it comes to Jalen Hurts. You can't go around claiming Patrick Mahomes is the best because of his rings, and then in the same breath, refuse to give Jalen Hurts a modicum of credit for his Super Bowl victory. The logic simply doesn't hold up. It is logically incongruous. It doesn't make sense. Those are just my thoughts on the matter. I'm genuinely interested in hearing your perspective. Please do be on the lookout for that other video I mentioned. I haven't recorded it yet, but I'm feeling the energy building, so I'll probably get to it right after this. In the meantime, let me know your thoughts in the comments. I make it a point to read every single comment, whether you agree with me wholeheartedly or disagree with every point I made. Either way, let's use this as a springboard for some great discussions, maybe even a few heated debates. But ultimately, let's just have some fun with it. And please, do consider subscribing to the channel. We are in the process of building a truly amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you become a part of it. My goal is to create a space where we all feel a genuine connection, a community we're all genuinely excited to be a part of. I think we are well on our way to achieving that. And finally, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really does help with visibility and the algorithm, allowing more people to join these discussions. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.